Okay, so good afternoon. It is 4 o'clock on September 3rd. This is the Steve Mazzacane podcast. I haven't been on. And I would say the last podcast we actually did was election night of last year. And even before that, we weren't doing a ton of podcasts. We did some political interviews. But if you are new, if you haven't been here before, welcome. If you're not used to it, typically 3-4 nights a week at 4 o'clock, I'd go live and talk about Brantford shoreline issues, state issues, and national issues. I try to be as balanced as I can be and unbiased as I can be, but you're allowed to comment and send in your questions and disagree and agree or what have you, as long as it's in a respectful manner. I'm trying to figure out some things. I haven't done this in a while, so I just re-downloaded. For some reason, I can't find my comments. So if you're commenting, I don't know why my comments aren't showing up. I'm not sure. So whatever the issue is here, if you comment and I don't get it. So in any event, if you're new, over the last about 2.5 or 2 years since we've done a regular podcast, we've gotten a lot more followers, a lot more people are reading and paying attention and interacting, and I appreciate that. The audience is growing significantly here on the shoreline. The goal, however, is to grow it and to get more statewide, more national news, and to see if I can't grow the overall audience on our platform. So you can follow me on Brantford7.com, the Facebook page. You can follow me on Steve Mazzacane, my personal Facebook page. You're welcome to follow. Instagram is also Steve Mazzacane. Follow there as well. And also have the website, stephenmazzacane.com. You can go to read articles or what have you. If you have issues, if you have comments, you have things that you want to say, please do mention them in the comments. You can always send me a direct message as well, and I'll get back to that the best I can. Again, I'm not sure why I can't get my comments to show up, but I'm guessing it's some deficiency on my part. But anyway, if somebody knows me and has my number, comment, say something, and let me know you did, because I want to find out where I can get it from. So in any event, a couple topics that I put down for today. And is, summer Brantford. We want to talk about Brantford because this is where most of our audience is. We also want to talk about some national things. It's interesting. Last week, or last, I would say, few weeks, we've heard nonstop about energy costs. And people know that I write about politics on a very regular basis. This is what I do for the most part. And this energy conversation has been an interesting one. The first 10-month huge leap, and then there's a second one that came after that. And there's a lot of misinformation on what those costs and those sudden bumps are for. But regardless, it's a bill. You've got to pay it. And whether it's for the nuclear plant, or whether it's to pay for other people's bills, or whether it's to pay for electric cars, whatever you want it to be, we just have a larger bill that we have to cover. But looking at it from a political standpoint, I'm left with a bunch of questions. And that is, if you're sitting in a room and and you vote for, and it was bipartisan, the first one, that you're going to have an electric bill increase, what logic was used that said, hey, let's start an electric bill increase in the middle of summer? Like, somebody up there said, what's a good idea? When electric bills are at their highest, when people are running multiple air conditioning units, that's when we should throw on a couple $100 extra bucks to their bills to just drive them crazy. On top of that, I'm left with this. Everybody in Hartford is Machiavelli, right? Everybody in Hartford thinks they're this amazing political mind and they know what they're talking about and it's brilliant. Who the hell decides, what a great time to start a huge increase to electric bill is? A few months before an election. Like, I just can't imagine the decisions being made here that somebody wouldn't say. Some, kid who says, hey, guys, just politically, you think you might want to start this in, I don't know, December, in January, when we're way past election season and way past the height of every single electric bill? And the only reason I bring that up is to say this. I cover politics every day. I watch Republicans and Democrats, and I cover national, I cover local, and we'll talk quite a bit about local politics, the issue that we see with the Stony Creek Brewery right here in Brantford pretty soon, and the absurdity of some politics. But all these people who think they're geniuses, making absurd decisions over and over again. It makes absolutely no sense. I got the bill. I said, wow, what the hell happened here? And it wasn't huge for me, but some people, it was massive. I posted one post that actually a lot of people responded to is this, you understand that your electric bill went up. And it's this, people often forget how all this stuff flows down. I have clients throughout the shoreline who are restaurants. And in general, most of them have said their electric bill has gone up about $1,000 a month. Now, remember something. A restaurant doesn't have to be open 24 hours a day. They still have massive refrigeration to plug in, whole rooms that are refrigerated to plug in. Like, they still have huge expenses that happen even when they're closed and there's no revenue being generated. But not only are they paying the extra $1,000 on their electric bill on their place of business, they're paying that on their home. So they're getting hit twice. Go to the average restaurant and you tell me if their food costs or the cost to you has increased at all in the last 3-4 months. And I would argue it hasn't. Because for the most part, the restaurateur just eats that. And we lose track of that. We lose track of every single thing that happens in Hartford, every single additional bill, every single additional charge, every single additional regulation costs small business money. And so often we say, hey, we want to raise some more money, let's tax business. It costs them double because they're paying it on both ends. And I'm amazed when I talk to restaurant owners all the time. They say we cannot raise our costs to our customers. We cannot raise prices on goods. We just have to eat it. And they're the ones paying the price for these things. So it's amazing, one, that we have all these geniuses in a room in Hartford. And some genius said, hey, we got to raise these prices. All right, we have to fix a nuclear plant. Okay, great. No problem. We decided bipartisan manner, this has to get done. Fine, no problem. Let's do it in July. Let's do it when every business is jacking AC constantly. Let's do it when every home is jacking AC constantly. And let's destroy these small business owners. Where is the logic in this? And I'm not calling out Democrats here because Republicans voted for that. This plan was bipartisan when that first passed. And nobody thought to say, hey, listen, maybe instead of doing it 10 months and starting in the summer, we do 2 5-month sessions and go November to March, where their bills are typically lower. Nobody thought that. Forget the political aspect of it. Forget the issue of let's get it after election season. Nobody stopped to say, how do we find a way to minimize the impact of this increase, even if you agree it was necessary? Nobody stopped to say, how do we minimize the impact of this increase when it comes to real people, real constituents, real people in our district? And that's what's sad. How is it that smart people, all these degrees, multiple campaigns, over and over and over again, sat in a room and no one said, hey, listen, let's find a way to minimize the impact on real people. And that's what's unfortunate about Hartford. And so as I talk about politics, as I give my opinion on a regular basis, as you hate what I write or love what I write, either way, that's fine. At the end of the day, I'm looking at one single aspect. How does this impact real people? And it's very easy for people who are voters or are constituents or what have you to look at one or two issues that the only thing that matters is one or two issues. But if an issue that may not affect you can destroy somebody else. And it's the job of an elected person to ask a very serious question. How does this impact the greatest amount of people? Everybody's going to have a negative impact at some point. No one law impacts everybody in a positive way. It just doesn't happen. It's funny. If you watch a State of the Union address, or actually either one of the campaigns now, right? So Biden had a press release today where he talked about, he showed some people who benefited from his last stimulus package or whatever the recent pour money into the economy bill he passed, right? Or anti-inflation act or whatever it was. And they benefited. They got money and many people did. In fact, many people in energy benefited. Many people in manufacturing benefited a lot because they got a lot of money where the market really wasn't helping that company. However, there's also a lot of people who did not benefit well. And so every bill that passes, somebody can get up and say, hey, look at the people who did great. And the other side can look up and say, Look at the people who did terribly. And that's a normal thing. When it comes to energy costs, it would seem it would be common sense to say everybody pays an electric bill. Let's find a way to minimize this impact. And if it was me, I would have said, okay, instead of raising it for 10 straight months, I would do it for 5 straight months, twice. November, December, January, February, March, when electric bills are typically lower for most people. They're not jacking up the AC, and we could have a far less impact on people and far less of the double impact that we have on small business. Just my thoughts on that. The most common question I am asked in Brantford is, what is with these people who are against the Stony Creek Brewery? So I'll answer this. And since I haven't been on camera a long time, I've been fascinated by this because from like a human psychology standpoint, it's amazing to think about how people dig their heels in, even if they're completely wrong, and they just don't stop. But in doing so, when their pride is hurt or whatever it is, they cost a lot of people more money. The Stony Creek Brewery is a brewery. When they first opened, their goal was not to be this massive entertainment venue that it's become. It was a brewery. If you haven't noticed what's happened in the last 5 or 6 years, there's a brewery on every corner. So everybody's has, and no matter whether you think their beer is good, their beer is not good, whatever it is, there's a brewery everywhere. We've had a few in Brantford that have opened and closed. Duvig opened and closed. Thimble Islands, there's one on 139. They're opening constantly. They're advertising all over the place. They're trying to get people there. As someone who is not a significant beer drinker at all, it's not necessarily a destination for me. So in doing so, these breweries have had to adapt. And in adapting, they've come up with other ways. So some are serving food, some are serving more wine and other liquor, some are having bands, some are doing live events, some are doing games, and I've seen blind date things or speed dating things. I've seen all these types of events happening at breweries to make up for the fact that the competition is absolutely insane. And at some point, the brewery this craft beer craze will start slowing down, and it kind of already has. The Stony Creek Brewery is stunning. It's beautiful. It's huge. It's right on the water. And that comes with probably one of the more expensive investments made in a brewery, probably in Connecticut. We also have to understand this. Prior to being the Stony Creek Brewery, this was a factory. It had 3 shifts. It polluted the hell out of the water. And you talk to anybody who's lived in Brantford for more than 30, 40 years, they will tell you the story of all the pollution that poured into the water from the Stony Creek Brewery that was there when that factory was there. I can also tell you this, as someone who lives in the Indian Neck area, during Irene, during the major storms, we couldn't get out. We actually ended up trying to drive over what was now the brewery lot, and it's all mud. So one of the things that the Crowley family did, and I give him a lot of credit for this, is he created a pathway, and there's a driveway there, so that during storms, we have a way to get out, which has been a lifesaver on multiple occasions for everybody that lives south of the brewery. Okay, that being said, and understanding the real business implications, how businesses have to adjust, the real economic implications of more breweries, of this craze that's come, the breweries all over the place, the business adjusting, what have you. They have these concerts. Now, I will be the first to tell you, I was in planning and zoning when Stony was in the meeting at the old Canoebrook Center in Brantford when it was approved. I did not expect the concerts we have now. I didn't expect that. That was a brewery. In fact, he presented it, Ed Crowley, as a place that there's going to be some tours on occasion on the weekend. Didn't even think it was going to become what it actually became, and neither did he, to be honest with you. But I'm glad it did. It became like the top 2 or 3 venues for a while in Connecticut. People were going constantly. Brantford was on the map. I'm not a huge believer that bringing all those people is a massive economic development boost to other places in town. But it is nice to see volume. We're a shoreline town. We're a summer town. It was a great thing to see. Again, not a big, I don't go there a lot, but I'm impacted by it every single time there's an event or every time there's more traffic, because to get to my place and away from my place, I've got to go by it. And soon, those live music events, the concerts they had grew, and they put up a stage. And I'm not saying it's silent. They're not. Helen Keller is not giving a concert there. That's the second Helen Keller reference I've made in the last week, but I like that one. I had somebody get offended by the Helen Keller. If you're offended by a Helen Keller reference, you've got other problems. In any event, like, this is not silent. This is not Blue Man Group. This is music, and they're cover bands, and some of them are good. Some, you may not like the music. I don't know. I was fine. But then these complaints come in. And the first night there was a concert about a couple of years ago, it was actually a problem because it was a summer concert. They got rained out. They got moved to October. And I'll be the first to say we should not be having concerts till 10 o'clock at night during the week in October. No question. Nobody would argue that. And so complaints came in. And they went to the police station. They went to Crowley. And I think he understood it. And it wasn't just this group that we're talking about now. There's a lot of people in the area saying, what the hell just happened here? Like, we can't have this sort of thing. And then the next year, a concert happens, middle of summer, no different than the concerts on the Green, no difference in music and all these other venues that we have. I heard last weekend or 2 weekends ago, we had a barge with a live band on it, the coolest thing I've ever seen, a live band going up the river on a barge playing loud music. There was a massive party, probably a block away from me 2 nights ago. And it was, you hear it. It's a little loud. Okay. You open your door, you go home, you shut the doors, and you call it a night. It's normal life. I get up every morning, 8 o'clock, to the sound of pickleballers beating the hell out of the ball back and forth because I'm close enough to Foot Park. It's life in Brantford. It's life in a community. But this group, you get a couple people who are, I'll call them Karens, who start bitching and moaning. And then you have the magic element, and you find a politically motivated asshole to get involved. Now, if you go to the brewery and you cross the river there into the marina, and there's a road, and you follow all the way down to the end, like way down to the end, there's a condo complex. And in that condo complex lives one particular asshole named John Hartwell. And this is a guy who moved to Brantford a few years back from Fairfield County. He's a professional political operative. Democrats have written blogs about him saying, be careful for this guy. Be careful with this guy. I talked to people at the stake that said, be careful. Don't trust him. I can tell you that there are town employees who will not email him one-on-one. They will copy other people on it. They don't want to meet with him one-on-one. Guy's an ass. Just a complete ass. He starts shit wherever he goes. It's what he does. And so he jumps on this. And he go door to door with many people who didn't even realize what was happening, saying, turn it down, and it's way too loud, and their lives are disrupted. And he did this over and over and over again. Now, whether I'm a journalist or media person or whatever you want to call me, I went across the street to the marina, and I stood there while music was playing, 9:30, 9:15 at night, and purposely went up to strangers and had conversations with them. And I talked to them in the exact same volume that I'm speaking right now, that I would have this same conversation with you or anyone else almost at any time. Never had I raised my voice. Never did they have to raise their voice. The stories we heard from these Karens, from these complainants, their foundations were shaking. Their windows were breaking in their house. They had to cancel family picnics. People couldn't focus in their house. Their kids couldn't do homework. We're like, what planet are you on? And I had to think about all the people who live around the center of town who every Thursday have live concerts. They have massive concerts for the festival 2 nights in a row. And never, in checking with the police, has anyone ever complained. Small businesses, because of the road race, have to shut down for a couple hours on a Sunday, some of which are breakfast restaurants, some of which were massage parlors they had to close, or therapy things they had to close. They do business. They lost that business because it's accepted these events happen in a shoreline town. And we have a business that has to adjust based on what the market is. Now, if they're having... Who just announced they're having Oasis is having a concert, right? Or if Taylor Swift was coming there, yeah, we'd have a problem, right? No, we're not equipped for that. But having a concert with a couple thousand people, it's not that big a deal. So Mr. Hartwell, in his infinite wisdom and his desire to be a complete ass, goes to the police department, goes to the Board of Selectmen, goes to the state. The brewery tries to get a license to start doing other types of liquor in their brewery. He goes to fight against that at the state level. But just before they go to the hearing, like literally, as they're about to go into the hearing, Mr. Hartwell and his lawyer go to Mr. Crowley and say, we have this settlement. Now, there's an interesting story because the settlement's nonsensical. It's a bunch of pages. Crowley makes them shorten it up. But it basically says you can follow the law, have up to 4 concerts a year, recognize us as an official group. And the third one was that the first selectman will meet to oversee this once a year or some nonsense. So I have no idea how somebody who has no right to speak for the first selectman, and the town should never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, be involved in a private agreement, contractual agreement between two parties. So I don't know what is wrong with this man. And Crowley's like, okay, well, those terms are what we do anyway, so fine. So they sign this thing and they go to Patch and they go to all these places, and Hartwell puts out this press release. Oh, we had this settlement and we're recognized as real. So I get this email. It was like the absolutely most absurd email I'd ever gotten. And okay, so some people are telling me they commented. I can't see them. I'm sorry. I don't know how to. Oh, never mind. Got a bunch of them. Okay. Justin, yeah, a long time. I'm sorry about that. Back now. Hi, guys. They're answering was to turn off the AC. Yeah, well, that's kind of idiot. Brewery needed to get creative to survive the pandemic and a shakedown. Okay, so in any event, I don't think they were looking for money, but so in any event, that's what I was looking at. So this settlement happens, and I say to myself, okay, I can write about this. I've been writing about it and going after Hartwell for the last few months. There's a settlement here. Hartwell's pushing this thing of we're reasonable and we're logical, and we've come to this conclusion. So I get this text. I've never met this person before. Clearly, it's a friend of somebody that we're talking about. And it basically says, hey, Mr. Mazzacane, are you going to write about how the Hartwell and the brewery came to a thing after you trashed him forever and there was no political impacts and he didn't make the world terrible? And I wrote, Mr. Hartwell's a piece of garbage and widely despised by most in his party, but sure. And then I wrote, and I said, after all that, Hartwell settled on 4 concerts a year. They had never had 4 concerts a year. Settled on they would follow the law. Yeah, they've already followed the law. They had to meet with the first selectman once a year. There's no freak way in a million years you're going to meet with the first selectman once a year. This was a complete bullshit agreement. It made no sense. And they're all proud of this and pushing this nonsense until I wrote this. And then the whole world was like, something's going on here. This is crazy. So then it's done. You could have quit with your pride. You could have called it a day. We fought the good fight. We have this agreement. No matter what Mazzacane says, he's an ass. Forget him. We have an agreement with the Stony Creek Brewery. And the brewery does exactly as they should, do a concert, and suddenly they're back. And the Karens run over there. Oh my God, the world's coming to an end. They run on the site next to the stage, try to talk to a police officer to get it shut down, demand all this nonsense. And it's just, what the hell? And then they go to the Board of Selectmen. Now, if you get a chance to watch a Board of Selectmen meeting and these people come, be thankful that you have Jamie Cosgrove as the first selectman. In the past, groups like this, I'll give you like Wayne Cook, would get in fights all the time with Uncta Ross. And Uncta Ross would stand up, scream back. It would be all-out shouting matches at these meetings. So these people come up and they do their best to sound reasonable, which is what you do. Like if you have a nonsense argument, you have to sound like we're just asking to be able to sleep at night. Like we want to feed our kids and put shoes on our feet. That kind of nonsense. You have to have that kind of feel. So they all get up and do this. And it's, we don't know where else to go. We went to the police. We went to you. We went to, where else should we go? Maybe. By the way, Jamie's like, doesn't say we're back. Like he's not stupid. But maybe, just maybe, if the police didn't want to, here's why the police aren't going to do anything about it. One, it's not that loud. The blowing it out of proportion nonsense isn't working. But two, imagine if the police did go over there and say, we're going to cite you and charge you, fine you $100 or whatever it is, or shut you down. You would shut down Branford. Why would they be allowed to do it or not be allowed to do it while other people can do it? The second a decibel went over 60, you get shut down. That would shut down the Stand. That would shut down the Thimble Island Brewery. That would shut down pretty much every place that has music. That would put in jeopardy the Brantford Festival. That would put in jeopardy Music on the Green, which is basically every night now since Colin is done his job. We have all of these events, fireworks, way over 60 decibels. The police can't pick and choose which ones they're going to enforce. So you have somebody who, by the way, is now an elected official for some reason beyond all comprehension, has influence within the Democratic Party, who is out here saying, we want this push because it's too loud for us. When, by the way, you don't live anywhere near it. It's nonsense. Without understanding that you can't pick and choose what events and what people and what businesses you'll go after. It would be a disaster. You'd lose what Brantford is as a town. And this has been one of the more funny interactions in the last, the time that I've covered, I've covered some, from Costco to elections and all this other stuff, but this has been one of the most, this is just a few assholes digging their feet in, fighting this good fight, getting in a room and telling them we can still do this and we can fight this and we're better than them and we have righteousness on our side. There's, a white horse and Jesus is behind them fighting this good fight while the rest of town is just laughing at them. At some point, walk away. You had your agreement. Go spend time with your family. Make Thanksgiving dinner or something. I don't know. Do something else. Stop being over and over an asshole at town meetings, to the police department, absolute letters to the editor, nonsense that we're seeing from this group. And this guy's not even lived here less than 5 years. Comes from Westport. He's a professional agitator. And he's the most influential person in the Democratic Party in Brantford, which is, we'll talk later in the week or later on as we get more into politics about that. But at the end of the day, the Stony Creek Brewery is not doing anything wrong. And quite frankly, the alternative that they don't remain is a bad one, because you'd have a big empty building, a huge blight on Brantford. I want the brewery there. I want them functioning. I want them vibrant. I want people to be able to sit on their boats and listen to music. There is no way in a million years that there are people across the way that are getting their foundations shaken and windows smashed. In fact, think about this. They're on the other side of a river. If their windows were shaking to the point of breaking, wouldn't the boats be smashing into each other? Wouldn't the vibrations be off the water? Absurd. This whole thing is such a nonsensical argument, and we deal with it over and over and over again. And by the way, in a nasty manner. Mr. Hartwell has slandered the Crowley family over and over again, writing letters to the editor that are false, misleading a ton of people, and then going and getting people under false information and getting them to sign petitions. Now, I don't think he'd get the same number of people to sign those petitions now. I think most people understand this is nuts. And there are very real implications if he got his way to the other events that happen in town. But during the election season, a year ago, we heard from Mr. Hartwell, though he was fighting for this, and we heard from Tracy Everson, who's the majority leader for the Democratic Party, that she's anti-tweed and fighting with this group against the music at the brewery. And that's, by the way, in her political profile. That's not my words. That's in her political profile. And there were promises of some sort of noise ordinance, and they've hesitated to bring it forth. I can't imagine why. But Mr. Hartwell, if you're listening, and I'm sure you are, I pretend you won't, but I'm sure you are, bring it forward. Let's have a public conversation. Don't talk about it behind closed doors. Let's have a public conversation about a noise ordinance. If you want it, put your face on it, put your name on it, let the town know that you want to further enforce closing down all of the events that make Brantford what Brantford is. That's it. Let's go. Stop with the bitching. Stop with the moaning. Do something. Or just stop. I prefer you stop. But the bitching and moaning, it doesn't help anybody. So that's where you are with the brewery. Like, they're still going to do concerts. They should. I live a few blocks away. I like them. I mean, I don't even know what the music is half the time. I don't go to the concerts. I've been invited to them, but I don't go to them. It's just not my thing. But this is what living in Brantford is. This is what living in a community is. We have pickleball, and we have loud kids at a splash pad, and we have live music at night. And it's during the summer. You're not going to get another October concert on Tuesday night. There was one time that happened, and we've been told that won't happen again. So in any event, I talked about that a little bit longer than I was expecting. I wanted to talk about presidential polling because that's a wild topic. We'll do that tomorrow. But listen, it's good to be back. I'm glad to have some people on. And hopefully I'll figure out the comment section properly. I'm trying to get a better microphone set up for tomorrow. I don't love this one. So hopefully I can manage to figure that out. But until then, guys, thanks for joining. Again, if there's questions, if there's comments, if there's something you want me to talk about, if there's something I need to research, give me some time. Send me a comment, send me those questions, and I'd be glad to address those as well. Until then, I will see you tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great